What's up, guys? Welcome to this episode of the Friday Recap. Guys, this was a really wide-ranging conversation. It started off talking about my time in Singapore. I had just got back from there. I was there for the Formula One. We talked a little bit about Singapore as a country and why it has done so well in the global marketplace. That we then talked about other tax-friendly environments around the world like Dubai and Oman and other places, and why we think more and more young Australians, sadly, are moving away and deciding to set up in those places. We talked about one of our favourite hobby horses here, local labour relations laws, employment laws, and the impost that they are putting on Australian small businesses in particular. And we shared some real-world stories of how this is causing disincentivization of hiring Australian employees. We actually share from our own portfolio of companies what we're doing and sadly seeing Australians leave our businesses because it just doesn't make commercial sense to hire them anymore because of these things that are going on, together with these ridiculous laws that were passed just recently in Queensland around the risk of saying anything that might be offensive and facing criminal charges. This is not coming. This is actually in and passed in Queensland, will be in effect next year, and there's a similar federal bill before the House at the moment. Outside of that, we moved into a whole bunch of other stuff. We talked about the importance of failing in business, and Simon gave a great example of in the US, his time there, how they don't really trust you unless you've actually failed. We talked about social media towards the end. I actually broke down my social media activity over the last 30 days and the last 90 days. And I gave you the real numbers, how many pieces of content I produced, what the reach was, how engaged it was, how many new followers I acquired, and how much money I make each year off just my Instagram account. So with that being said, guys, I hope you enjoy it. It's a fun pod, kind of relaxed. I'm low vibe today because I'm recovering from the flight. I literally got off the plane very early this morning and have not slept, but we've done our best. I know that you're going to love it. It's going to be a great show. We'll see you on the other side. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Friday catch up with the four amigos. We still have Eric away. He is actually back today, but I don't know whether he knows where he is right now. He's been away and traveling, and this will be your last week with no Eric to pay out on, James.
Yeah, well, back to the linen shirts, I reckon, just to fire things up next week.
Simon, how are you, mate? Welcome back.
Mate, I'm amazing. I'm fired up for today. It's going to be a great pod.
Fantastic. For those of you who have never seen Simon on the pod before, he's a local business owner. He runs a company called Automate Convert. It's kind of an agency that helps businesses automate their processes and convert more sales. Really cool company. Go check them out. Thanks, and we also have Chris Jeong. He's becoming a regular here from the Earlibird.
Yeah, back again. Survived the last pod, which is great. So looking forward to this one as well.
No Phasians were hurt.
They were not hurt.
I love how you dropped that comment in there.
Got your uniform on again, which is good. So
always, mate. Always.
Repping the brand. Yeah. It's kind of, I don't know about you guys, but I got a lot of feedback personally from last week's pod where we were talking about free speech and all that sort of stuff. And we had a good crack at Chris when he said, because I'm a minority, I think you guys need to be polite. And I said, Chris, you're the most racist of all of us. All you Asians are.
That's it.
And it was very
Simon threatens to fry me through the bedroom as well with the mirror. So yeah, it's a rough one.
But we got a lot of.
Speaking about getting fried in the bedroom, just saying.
Is there a story there?
Well, wouldn't want to be Kevin Hart at the moment, or Diddy. So
good.
Definitely not.
That's a pretty. I feel a lot more relaxed than those pair. That's for sure today.
Yeah, well, I didn't know. I didn't know that any of that happened with Kevin Hart. I didn't know he was wrapped up.
I think there's more to follow. I think this is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't have been the.
If you're placed at best, do you think Diddy's going to see the outside of that cell, or do you reckon it's going to be another Epstein?
A little Epstein episode? Who knows? But he's on suicide watch anyway, or protective custody at 24/7. So, but that'll be one hell of a show to keep tabs on. That's for sure.
If it's all true, then I'm glad it's coming out. But I would imagine there's some furious phone calls going on at the moment in the background going, hey, those parties, which parties exactly do you think they've got the footage from? Because
every single white party, because it happened every single week, apparently on the weekly. Can you imagine the lawyers over there just going, fucking Christmas?
Yeah.
They're just going to have a field day with that.
Yeah, I think was going to be shocked by, if it comes out who's actually on the list. I've heard all sorts of names, but yeah, man, it's so terrible.
Yeah, well, obviously people are deleting their X profiles or Twitter profiles and everything too, and all their posts. So it's a bit of a guilty actions there, potentially.
Yeah.
That always seems incriminating that they would try and cover up their tracks, and it's weird. Right?
Exactly, especially with the tech these days and discovery. There's all wheeled back there in 2 seconds flat if the FBI wanted it.
Yeah.
There in a heartbeat. So
For sure.
So it's
Elon said X or Twitter's a social media platform and a crime scene as well.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting time, and there's a lot going on in the news cycle at the moment with everything that's going on with that. We've got all the horrific stuff going on in the Middle East. I don't really want to dive into that because, if we talk about all that stuff, we have listeners from both sides of that aisle. Jewish listeners, we have Palestinian listeners, and I think the people are really on both sides are really stuck in a bad place here. So I think I'd rather just move on rather than dive into what we think of what went on in that particular area, because it affects real people in a real way. But if you're listening and you do have family members directly affected by this, either side of that argument, I don't want to get it. There's thousands and thousands of year old history there, but we send our love and best wishes to you at this time, because it's just terrible what's going on over there. So I just got back from Singapore. So you guys are going to have to kick up a little bit, because I got in at 6:30 this morning through the night flight. I've slept about maybe 2 hours.
great. So it's a perfect time to pressure for a bit of sensitive information.
Exactly. But geez, what an event that was up in Singapore, the F1. It was fantastic. Nearly 300,000 people in attendance.
Wow.
We watched Kylie Minogue, Lenny Kravitz, the Cause all performing live right behind our seats in the grandstand at the end of the straight. It was a terrific. I've been to Singapore many times before, but I haven't been for an F1, and what a business that is. Oh my God. Just incredible. It was $180 for a supporter t-shirt, and nearly everyone had one on. So I wonder whether McLaren makes more money out of cars or t-shirts these days, because it was incredible.
That's what you call a brand.
Oh, incredible. And so many Aussies up there, like the track commentators were Aussies. I reckon 20% of where we were in Grandstand 2, I reckon at least 20%, maybe more, were Australians in bright orange Oscar Piastri shirts. So it was a bittersweet day, because it was the end of Danny Rick. They're saying. But if you look at, if there's any F1 fans watching, it was amazing to see him going out with the fastest lap on his last race. And
that's cool.
Big love to Danny, because he brought a lot of joy to the sport. So let's talk about business, what's been going on out there in the world. Who's got something they want to kick off with that's gone on in their week of business that we can share with the crew?
We were just talking about distributed workforce and new laws and being able to talk to people after 5 o'clock. So I think you had a fairly good piece of input there. So
I was just talking about the structure of our business, where we've got a lot of contractors and they're international. We've been remote since prior to COVID, because I just didn't like the idea of paying a 6-figure rent on an office premises. So we've got a team of 9, and they're scattered all over the world. It actually took me forever to buy someone who was just a world-class media buyer. She was living in New York when I first came across her, and now she's in New Zealand. So at least we're in a similar time zone, but it's great. I love the excellence where it's not unusual for those guys to weigh in on a Saturday morning if something's going awry with a campaign or something. I've just got a question about something. It's just awesome. So we're kind of sheltered a little bit from the new laws and regulations which are introduced over here, which seem to be anti-business and anti-productivity. And
I posted a reel today on my Instagram that showed a clip of Anthony Albanese reminding Australians that the right to disconnect laws are now in effect. And then I cut to a clip of saying that
no tax on overtime.
No tax on overtime, yeah. So if he gets elected, they're going to incentivize people to work longer hours by removing all federal taxes on overtime. And I asked the question, if you're trying to turn a country around or improve a country and make it a great country, like Singapore, for example, is a great country in so many ways, which of those two incentives do you think is better? The right to disconnect, where you penalize business owners for contacting their employees after hours, or incentivizing employees and to work hard and to get the benefits of no tax on any overtime? I mean, it's it's
going to help business owners as well, right? Because obviously the employee is going to be more keen to work overtime, which is going to make them more productive.
It's win-win.
Brilliant.
It helps the government too, because right now with the tax situation, they pay more, employees pay more tax, employers pay more tax. payroll tax.
As if that hasn't been enough, like they're bringing that in, weaponising workplace relations, but they're also at the same time in Queensland and now at the federal level, there's a bill being put through federal, but in Queensland it's actually passed and coming into law next year, where, you know, if you offend a minority, we spoke about it last week, if you offend a minority, you can be facing 3 years jail, which is a criminal offence in Queensland.
I reckon it'll be up for 25 to life already.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Just from this afternoon.
Just when you walk in the room.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like becoming quite an anti-business place.
Yeah.
I was in Singapore, as you guys know. I just said that, and the leader of Singapore was Lee Kuan Yew. If you don't know who that is, look him up, and he is an incredible visionary leader who really put Singapore on the map. And there were 3 things that he did when right at the start that made Singapore the foundations, and they were all unpopular decisions. Number 1, he said, we're going to speak English. Everybody in Singapore is going to speak English. Number 2, we're going to get rid of all corruption. And the way we're going to get rid of all corruption in government is we're going to pay them really, really well. The highest paid politicians in the world are Singaporean politicians. They get paid millions of dollars a year to work in the government. And then the third thing we're going to do is we're going to attract the best intellectual capital from around the world to Singapore, and we're going to do it by keeping taxes low. And when you go to Singapore, I got to tell you, it is such a great place to be. I was up early walking the streets at 5 a.m, getting my steps in and just exploring the city. And I saw women walking around at 5 a.m. well before the sun comes up. There's not any fear, no tension.
That's great.
You know, you could describe Singapore's law in one sentence: fuck around and find out. Like that. Nobody fucks with people in Singapore because they do not take kindly to it.
I had a girlfriend of mine, a good friend. She's been there for about 6 years. She used to be the merchandising manager for Prada APAC. And she obviously lived there for 6 years, and she said, look, a baby could be walking in the street at 3 o'clock in the morning lost, and it'd get taken home to its parents by a civilian. It's that safe. Like, there is just, don't fuck with your rule, full stop.
Yep.
Which I don't think's a bad thing.
I think it's just from the fuck around and find out laws, though. Like, I think there's a lot of unity over there. You know, like, you know, over here we have a lot of division and you know, intentionally sown or not, but you know, over there it's quite unified, and you know, people want the best for each other. So
to be clear, they're not called the fuck around and find out laws.
No. Just in case you're Googling it.
That's the Australian shorthand.
But it's different standards, right? Like, I remember when I went to Singapore, one of the first times I went there, a friend of mine who was my, I guess, host said, you don't have any chewing gum on you. I was like, why not? Because if you spit chewing gum on the street, you'll spend a night in jail. And like, they just have different standards. So I look at that, say, compared to, say, somewhere like LA, where you can steal $1,000, under $1,000 worth of merch, and it's not criminally prosecuted.
Yeah.
And so you see people just ransacking like a little pocket calculators, going, no, I'm not quite at 1,000 yet. I've got a bit more to go. And now I'm out of here. It's like, it's just weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've definitely got standards in place, and they've got some good decisions that just, you know, make it a cool place to be.
You're right about that. The unity up there. There's no division between race or anything like that. You fuck around, you'll get flogged, and there's never any division that I was aware of anywhere I saw it there at all. Everyone gets along.
The energy is very different. It's quite a softer energy. Like Australia, you know, people get the most aggressive haircut, the most tats. You know, there's this sort of tension in Australian life that's not in Asia. Somebody said to me, you know, interestingly, in Japan, you know, like they identify themselves as the we. So they say, I am so-and-so, the third son of so-and-so. They identify themselves in the context of the family.
Wow.
Whereas in Australia, we're very individualistic. But up there, you're right, Chris, it really, like, when you went into the Singapore Grand Prix, they're all volunteers that are working there, and they're like, welcome to the Grand Prix, thank you for coming, and they're so sweet. Then when you leave, they're like, bye, we hope you had a good time. And
That's so awesome.
There's just this culture of kindness, and I can't speak highly enough about the place. Yes, they do control speech, and you know, dictatorships, when they're done right, are fantastic. They're just rarely done right. but anyway, you know, they've done really well up there. And if you haven't been to Singapore, I strongly encourage people to go up there and have a look and really think about, like, if you're an Australian listening to this, what kind of future do you want for the country? And because I really believe that this country is becoming or has become a wealthy, dumb country where we've relied so heavily on minerals that we haven't invested in intellectual property. We haven't set up a culture that acknowledges, like, just like when I was catching the train, I got the train most days, the MRT there, and they've got like public pianos in the train station that anybody can go and play. You see little kids playing the piano and older people sitting there playing the piano, and just things like that I think, recognising the art, celebrating it. In Australia, they think it'd be trashed in 5 minutes. Or if somebody actually sat down and started playing the piano, you can just imagine the shit that you
We'll probably get a needle in their ass
exactly.
on the Western line.
But I think that it's a great example of really thinking about the future for our country and like trying to incentivize smart people to come here and start businesses. But when you've got the reason, guys, for the younger people listening to this, I know when I was young, you'd hear people talk about politics and you go, oh God, it's so dry and boring. I'll never be interested in politics. But the reason this stuff matters is because it shapes countries. And if you can attract that intellectual intellect and people, and you do it through taxation and you do it through law, people are flooding into the Middle East and into Saudi Arabia and countries like Singapore because they're just sick of waking up in Australia knowing that their grandmother could be getting robbed, or up at Coomera where they're breaking in and stealing cars and they're 15 and then getting a little slap on the wrist and saying, have a nice day.
It would be good if Eric was here to speak about Canada, because Canada did that with Hong Kong. They were like, hey, bring in your youngest and your brightest and we'll give them a career. And they've got a big reputation for being like an IT force of the world, right? And they've got their infrastructure there. They've got like some of the best Chinese food you could have over there because they've got all these little Chinatowns everywhere. It's cool.
In Singapore, the corporate tax is 15%, I believe, but for the first 3 years or 4 years, I can't remember, but there's a 75% off in the first year, or tax-free in the first year, 75% off the second year, 50% off the third year.
Oh, that's cool.
So they give you this massive incentive to come and bring your business to Singapore, and the place is a melting pot of really diverse people and a lot of smart people, really because it's a small place. They're exporting intellectual property and finance and
not only that, but obviously when the Hong Kong back went to Chinese rule, it was just a mass exodus out of Hong Kong into Singapore as well. Yeah. So it's just been like a massive exodus out of Hong Kong into that place. So it's done the world of good.
Yeah. I meant to say that the export from Hong Kong to Canada. I might have said the wrong thing, but I meant that for
Hong Kong to Sing. Yeah.
I think we're going to continue to see a brain drain. I was speaking to a friend up in Singapore, and she worked in Oman for 4 years and said it was some of the best years of her life. And these Middle Eastern countries are again, they're becoming quite appealing to young people because of taxation, safety, rule of law.
And even El Salvador as well. There's a lot of good things happening over there too. Like it's Dubai, El Salvador, that's where people are going. Smart entrepreneurs, especially from the USA, people involved in like crypto and all those elements there too. Because they're setting up the right conditions.
Yes.
Which is exactly what
El Salvador's got one real fuck-up policy there now as well. They've got the largest prison on the planet with about 50,000 guys. We're never, ever getting out ever again. And the president, prime minister, whatever it is over there.
Kelly.
He said, one strike rule. He's cleaned it up with a...
Notice, like, one thing I take a lot of heart in, not taking sides on things, but like the people who are sort of advocating for the same sort of things that we're advocating for, they're all smart, driven, principled people. You've got like your Elon Musks, you've got, I'm not going to get to the political side of things, but the Unity group over there in the USA that, from people from both sides of the party are joining together for a brighter future. And I think PBD says it a lot. And these times, all the right people are finding each other. And it's really quite heartening to see. And I know obviously Elon just did an interview, I think, with Kelly as well. And just like seeing these places of, I guess, principle springing up around the place, whether it's El Salvador, even the states like Florida, you got even Dubai, all those things are popping up. It's really quite heartening to see.
People are voting with their feet.
They are.
They are leaving California in droves. They're leaving New York in droves. Many people are leaving Australia now as well. I get contacted daily since I started talking about this stuff from people that have left and said, I've just left. I left 2-3 years ago and I'll never go back. But they've been silent about it. And now they're starting to find their voice. And it's a shame that we're losing, if you're not in mining and you own a small business, as AI rises and as technology continues its march, if you don't have to be in a place that is going to tax you through the butthole and disincentivizes employment, for a lot of young people, they go, look, I'm going to go. I've got a young friend. The guy went to Singapore with his son, is based in Dubai now and loving life and paying no tax or very little. And he's well positioned globally to go wherever he wants. I think
it's cool, hey?
It is.
I think Dubai, the appeal is the tax, right? I think they've just now introduced an income. Before it was tax-free, and now I think it's like 10% or something like that. But I think people move there for that. Also, it's just exciting, and it's a visionary country, right? They They make stuff out of nothing. They're right in the middle of the desert, and then they make waterfront properties, and like they're doing some really cool stuff with vision. What's the name of the hotel? Is it the
Burj Khalifa, the big
that one. So the vision behind that hotel, that needs to be vacant at full occupancy for over 105 years before they start to turn a profit. So there's some serious vision for their future there, and it's just an exciting part. They can do it because they can, but also there's some it's just a cool kind of electric place to be, and I think that's really cool. If we could get Australia back to something like that. I had a business coach I was talking to earlier in the week who said, problem with Australia is that people they're kind of dulled down. No one really wants to have a crack. And I shared that at dinner with a friend of mine last night who runs a pretty successful business with government contracts and stuff like that. And he said, we're so disincentivized over here to have a crack, because if you're dealing with the government, then the government says that, no, you can't have contractors. You have to have employees to be.
And those employees have
government.
got all of these rights,
Yeah.
and they're all educated about what those rights are.
Yeah. And then the government's saying, oh, but you're a third party provider. You should be more efficient than us as the government. And his argument is like, yeah, but you're forcing us to be like the government with all the red tape and all the politics. You're forcing us to operate like the government, not like a free independent business, to do business with you guys and provide a better, more efficient service. So it's like, yeah, it's a little bit hard. But I think with the exception of being a government contractor, if you really want to have a crack at it, I reckon do it. I listened to the podcast earlier this week with Igor, the guy who's living in Dallas.
I hope you're enjoying the pod. Just a quick note to let you know that on October 19, we have a one-day training event, Unemployable Live, at the QT Hotel on the beautiful Gold Coast. This is going to be an amazing day. We've got some incredible speakers, including Rick Richardson, the man that successfully sued Microsoft for more than $500 million, from Byron Bay, who has over 200 patents. He'll be teaching us how to protect our intellectual property in business. We have Raf Hussain coming in to talk about TikTok shops, which I believe is the fastest growing e-commerce platform at scale in the world right now. We have Chris Jeong coming in from Earlibird AI. I'm going to be talking. Eric's going to be talking. It's going to be an amazing day. It's fully catered. You get the recordings. You even get a one-on-one coaching call with myself or Eric, your choice, after the event. And we're going to have lunch on the beach together. If you would like to join us for that day, go to unemployable.com.au/events. That's unemployable.com.au/events. Tickets are almost sold out. Click on the link to go see it. Enjoy the pod.
I loved his story about how he went to the US and what was involved in the visa. We did the same thing with an E2 visa. But when I listened to his story, I was amazed because we qualified for an E2 visa. And I don't know how we did it. I think I just had a crack and I wanted to do it. I engaged the migration attorney who said, no, you don't qualify. But I still wanted to go. And it's like, well, I'm going to just have a look and see what the qualifying criteria is. And when I saw that they had a 5-year business plan as one of your criteria, I got really encouraged because I thought most people can't read financial statements, so I'm going to have a crack at it. And I got a 4-year visa, an E2 visa, to go over there and live in there for 4 years. And
I suspect you could probably get all that done on ChatGPT now very simply.
Oh, yeah.
But one thing I just want to, before we move on from that conversation around, incentives, like as a young person or as an entrepreneur coming up, if you can base yourself in a place like Dubai, and I'll tell you a quick story. When I was there just recently, the difference when you are paying 10% tax versus 30, and the difference when you're paying contractors at a reasonable rate rather than what you have to pay base level. In Australia, you've got to pay people twice, once to show up and then a second time to work.
And then the third time to pay them.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy. Like, I could tell you stories till the cows come home, but one little story I wanted to share was Cass and I were there, and we went and we looked at some co-working spaces because we were considering going to Dubai. And ultimately, we decided not to because, as you know, next year we're leaving. But we decided not to just because we've sat down and thought, what do we really love to do? Well, we love walking. It's such a big central part of our life, going on walks together. And we thought, it's not really a walkable place. It's very deserty and all that. But we went out to this one place that it was about probably 25 minutes from downtown Dubai, and we were driving out there in the car, and then it just felt like just nothing. And if you've been there, it's just desert, and then you see this estate sort of on the horizon, and then you pop up, and the place looked amazing online. It was a co-working building, and it had this big semicircular pool with a vanishing edge that went over with this incredible desert view, and this glass that was about 4 stories high that curved around that pool, right? And this huge door that swung inwards when you got there. And inside was 3 girls on the reception with the headpiece on, and it was buzzing inside this joint. There was architects from Sweden. There was game developers from Czechoslovakia. There was just young people from all over the world doing all kinds of stuff from this co-working space. So that, and even at my age, I was like, man, I want to work here. Like, I want to be around this vibe and this energy. And they go out for drinks after work, and they would, and that's what these tax incentives do. And when you get safety right, and that's why, if you look at MBS, he's investing huge dollars into these footballers to come out and play in Saudi Arabia. It's all about showing, look, if it's safe enough for Ronaldo to come and live in Dubai, that it's safe enough for your family. That's really what he's buying. He's not really buying the footballer, he's buying the message, right? To bring that Western money over before they run out of oil. So it's a interesting time. Interesting.
And women can now vote and drive, so they're becoming pretty progressive pretty quick.
100%.
I mean, I'm deadly serious. Like, it was only just recently, like they had to open up that to allow what they're trying to do.
They actually had Andrew Schultz there recently. I don't know if you saw, Andrew Schultz, the comedian. Have you guys seen? Oh, he's terrific. He's been on Rogan a bunch of times, and he recently did a stand-up show in Abu Dhabi. And it's hilarious because he started off and he was like, he really went over there and spoke to a bunch of people, said, is it really okay for me to tell my jokes here?
Right.
And so he's in Abu Dhabi. Imagine this, right? So for those of you who don't know, Abu Dhabi is in Saudi, and it's where the real wealth is there. Dubai is like the Las Vegas of the Middle East. Sure. And it's very conservative, and he was there and he's shitting himself because they said, no, it'll be fine. He did all this groundwork to really understand the place. And then about an hour before, they came and said to him, Andrew, just so you know, there's some members of the royal family here tonight.
Oh, no pressure.
Oh, my God. So his first joke was, what's up, towelheads? That's how he opened his speech, right?
Right.
And then he said, okay, who's here from Dubai? And then everyone's like, yeah. And he goes, what's it like to be in a place with some real money? But then he went in with a big joke, and he said, a fun fact about Abu Dhabi, it's the home of the biggest library in the Middle East. He says, just think about women. One day you'll actually be able to read those books, not just clean them, like members of the royal family. And they loved it. The crowd, you could see it on YouTube, they're just piercing themselves laughing. And the members of the royal family, the kids asked him back to play FIFA football at the palace afterwards. So that kind of stuff is really westernizing that part of the world, or at least I don't think it'll actually westernize it, but it'll just make it more accessible.
Well, they're not getting offended so quickly. Like over here, everyone to be offended, and it'll be victim culture, and not so good. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So what else is happening in the world of business more locally? Who's got a story they want to share?
Well, mate, just talked about that contracting piece and having distributed workforce. I mean, I'm picking one at the moment. We've got 15 odd staff, and it'll certainly make you sit down and look, what does my business really want to look like, the next business really want to look like, or the one I'm working on at the moment? How's it going to get structured? What overheads am I going to have in place? And I certainly won't be going to putting on 15 local Aussies on again. Not in a fucking long time, I can tell you that.
Right.
Yeah. Trying to unpick that mess has been a long...
Just out of interest, like how much money do you reckon it's cost to unpick that?
Oh, I would like to put a finger on it. I could come back to you and
it'd be tens of thousands.
Oh, yeah. Like, because you got all of the guys have been there, one guy's been there for about 18 months. We owe him about 18, 20 grand in entitlement just for showing up on top of the holiday, the sick that he's already got. That's one dude. And we had 14 of them. So, it's over 100 grand easy to unpick all that, and then all the work cover and all the other shit that goes with it. It's just like, I'll certainly won't be rushing in to employ on the ground Aussies again, or just do it in a different way where it is contracted out. If it's going to be, a warehousing model like we did, put them into 3PL and in and out, and it's just, I'll pay the premium, that's fine, but no risk. I can walk away tomorrow.
But James, you are so not alone, and this is the problem, right? Like, the people who think that they're being protected by these laws, like most of this stuff, it's the people who think they're being protected and taken care of that end up getting fucked. Yeah. And that's what's happening. Entrepreneurs around this country are just going, you know what, never again. Like, I get it if you're working for Telstra or you're working for the government or some sort of, surety, but
Small
when you're
business
dealing
is
with
different.
small business people,
And not only that, the mindset of people too is like on the way out, it's like you've never missed a beat, never missed them on anything, always got them both, all that shit. Not one thank you. It's like they basically tell you you're an asshole. It's like, fucking hell. Like,
you're watching the business be unwound.
Yeah, just look, we unwound it because we did like ultimately the deciding factor was click to cash. Too long dealing with government. It was starting to get drawn out. All right, is the effort worth the reward? Is there not something else we could be doing that's going to have a lot tighter click to cash for the, and again the energy output sort of equation. But yeah, no, just the attitude of these people, because you're lining something up. And it's like, yeah, fuck,
James, that happened to me in 2008.
Yeah.
And one good butt bumming was enough.
One good session with Diddy, and that was enough.
Yeah.
I got Diddy.
Exactly.
No Diddy.
I got diddied. But in 2008, and after that, I'm like, in this country, you got to go really big or just stay small.
Or just set up a whole lot differently.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
A lot smarter than having all these people. But the thing is, when there's so many different laws around fair work, if they're doing this, like the means testing, it's like, fuck, I've got to put you on full time. And to that point, as I think we discussed this on another pod, it was offshore contractors. Oh no, they need the same entitlements as an Australian. I'm like, get fucked. I'll run the gauntlet with that. Thanks.
Yeah.
And they said, well, you got to speak to their tax service, with the IRS or whoever it's going to be, and negotiate. There'll be some sort of treaty that comes together. I said, so you don't actually know? I said, no, but you need to do it. And I'm like, fuck that. I'll just put that in the let's edit that bit out, by the way. Let's put that in the bottom drawer. And I was like, man, the whole where I'm going with this is the whole reason just get out of Australia altogether, and you have to put up with this whole bunch of bureaucracy bullshit.
It's concerning, James, because I think I did the breakdown on a pod just recently, but I think it was 2.5 million jobs are small business. So it's those businesses that don't don't require services like restaurants or massage or whatever, the things where physical humans actually have to be there. I see a future in the very near future where Australians are just going to have to become, if you're a knowledge worker or a soft worker, you're going to have to get your work online because very few Aussie companies are going to hire.
But as I said, it sort of shapes your, okay, how am I going to do it next time or what are we currently now? How am I going to structure this? And then it really defines what business you're going to go after. This whole, we looked into a couple of different sectors before and during COVID when we were looking to acquire companies, and it was, in the healthcare space, it was services or product. And as we all know, through COVID with services, try and hire, fuck that. If I'm going to have to arbitrage their time and that's the business model, forget it. There's not a chance. And it's even more so now. It's just not for me anyway.
There's an art form on the other side, though, isn't there, as well? Like contracting offshore people, learning to hire them well is a whole new skill set for a lot of people. So how do you hire them? How do you incentivize them? And getting your head around making them feel like they are genuinely part of the team, which we've done. My animation company in Hollywood, we had a lot of offshore contracters. And Chris, you're doing it right now. What have you learned recently from this?
Yeah, well, look, they actually do enjoy being part of a team. So part of what we do with Earlibird is we have regular Zoom calls with sort of all hands meetings. And we've had actually several of our developers in particular saying they've really enjoyed working in this particular business because they feel like part of a team. And we actually had a couple of them send us a photo recently of them catching up to have coffee together in the same city, which is brilliant. It's nice, beautiful to sort of see that happen. But one thing is with the contractors, you've got to really help them feel like they're a part of the business because they are so far removed. And so, for us, like me and Earlibird, like we're here in the office, we've got Josh there, we've got Adam, everyone coming through, a lot of the actions happening in the office. We have to stop and remember a lot of our teams overseas, they're rocking up in their home office or their studio, wherever they're working, and they have no idea about what's going on. So we have to really work extra to make sure they do feel part of that team.
You're doing some cool things, and I've done this for years, and I told you to do it as well, and I know you've done it, which is we get merch from the company over to them. If they're in India or the Philippines, we send them T-shirts and hats and we put a box and a package that gets to them.
Right. Yeah.
Actually, that's a really good point. They've been loving their shirts, and we also got those Zoom backdrops as well, and they're all loving rocking up at these things. They feel that real sense of unity. And
they see.
We've done that too with our team, the Zoom backdrops, and they love it. We've got them a number of virtual office backgrounds, and they keep changing them up, and they love it.
Yeah.
The other week I was in here, and straight after a podcast that we recorded here last week, I did because it was kind of early, and then I did a morning tea, which was because we've got a team in the US, in New Zealand and Australia, and the Philippines. So I did a breakfast, lunch, dinner catch up with my team just to bring everyone together with the culture, just to bring that camaraderie. So it's a regular Tuesday meeting, but in the Philippines, it's 8 in the morning. It's 10 o'clock in the morning here in Australia, but it's lunchtime, 12 o'clock in New Zealand, and dinner time over in Texas. So I'm buying lunch, dinner, and breakfast for everyone. But it was just to bring us all together, bring us on the same page, have a bit of fellowship, and just have a meal together, like a virtual meal. And I think
It goes so far, man. Like
things like that are just cool because I honestly, I just love the freaking people in my team.
Yeah.
They're amazing. They're world class. They're not necessarily expensive either, especially one of my best employees.
They will be after this pod.
Yeah. One of my best employees is the most inexpensive. And she's just amazing. And I've had to cycle through a few people to get to her. But gosh, she's just incredible.
There's some words you won't hear from many Australian employees. Employers, sorry.
Well, I just don't want her to go anywhere. So I just keep throwing lumps of cash at her. I keep revising her agreement, paying her more money because I'm just paying her to sort of be like an intrapreneur, like a business hub within the business. So she's responsible for some of the tech and some of the automations. But because she's got this initiative, she'll reach out to the media buying team and go, hey, there's been no leads coming in for the last half a day for this client. Is everything okay? And like, wow, would you look at that? Not even her wheelhouse at all, but she's just curious.
The beauty of it is it's like being global. Like the opportunity you're giving her, people over here would walk past it and look at it like it's a piece of trash, that opportunity. But people in different situations, they're hungry, they're motivated, and they'll do exactly that. And for her, that'd be the opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah.
And it's
that context piece, right? So in Australia, as I said, we're the dumb rich because, there's so much money in this country. And whenever you come home, you sort of drive the beautifully paved streets and everything's amazing. And you got to be super disciplined to die of starvation. Yeah. But like if you're in like the Philippines, like I got a mate who runs a hospo business here in Australia. He says he employs mostly Brazilians.
Right.
And he says they're eating food off the plates out the back, while they're hustling and they don't worry about work and they just want to work and they want to serve the customer and they keep their jobs. And he goes, I just can't get that anywhere. They're just so grateful to be here and to make the most of the opportunity they have. And that's, if you're listening to this and you're, on the way up, just understand that there's 7 billion other people that would probably rather live here or work for an Australian company than where they are.
Just to clarify that food's you got to eat off the plate after it comes back, not going out, right?
Correct.
Just double checking.
No, I'm talking what's left over on the customers' plates.
Yeah.
They're eating it and they're like, wow, this is great, free food, and it just, and I'm not saying it like, I know there are going to be people going, hey, you're a capitalist pig, you should be feeding people, you should. But I'm just telling you that there are places in the world where the idea of getting paid to work and then having a half plate of food given to you, hey, what's coming in next? Some avocado rolls there. And I'm not saying it's great. I'm just saying we're so blessed and it's so easy to forget that in this country. And, if you're a good person, you're going to look after those people anyway and make sure that you do stuff for them to make them feel special and you show the love and all that sort of stuff anyway. But it's very, very interesting. You were saying about something you wanted to talk about with that pod on Tuesday that you brought up. Oh, you were talking about with Russell Brunson when you were speaking to Rusty about the failing. And I thought that was an interesting point. Cycles.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember a story that he told me. He was on a cruise and there was this amazing entrepreneur that he wanted to have a meeting with, just a meet and greet to get to know the guy and maybe even work with him, but it'd just be awesome to meet him. And he heard that he was a wrestler and Russell's used to be a Boise State champion wrestler. So he's like, he found a gym and he got all the yoga mats all set out, and there was the only way that he could get him there was to go around the wrestling route. And so he got him. He says, afterwards he said, why did it take us 7 times for you to say yes to this? And he goes, normally I don't actually talk to people unless they're entrepreneurs who have cycled a few times. And he goes, what does cycled mean? That means you've had it all and you've lost it all. And through the losing it all means you kind of knock the edges off a little bit of your ego. And then you go through another cycle and then it's like, it's not just me. There's more team. There's more of a team approach to success than just me. So I'm not the hero in the movie. And then through the second or third cycle, you start to get the edges knocked off and now you're teachable. And so that's why I didn't take the meeting. No, I found it really interesting in light of the podcast that was shown earlier this week with Igor, how incredibly close and sometimes all the way when people, entrepreneurs, sail so close to the wind of bankruptcy before they hit their Grand Slam payday. And I just find it just remarkable, the resilience to cycle through and get back on the horse again. And it's beautiful to see, if it took them, 10 years to learn how to make $10 million or $100 million and they lose it all. And then in 2 years, they're right back to where they were.
You learn the most valuable lessons. Like with Chris's company, with Earlibird, one of the things we do is we ask Chris to give us a simple daily report. He has to look at the bank account every day and say what came in, what went out, and what's owed to us. And why do we get Chris to do that? Because we fucked up in the past and we've lost it all. And so it's those lessons. How much of a difference does it make when you look at the bank account every day?
Laser focused on what's coming in and what's going out.
Yep.
And in fact, before the pod, I was just actually meeting with our bookkeeper and we were shaving more off our expenses, which is absolutely brilliant. And it does keep you laser focused on what's really important.
I was listening to a pod this morning when I was walking around to the gym, and it was Ozzy said it before, but it was just one of his little, business lessons of the last 10 years or whatever. And he said, check your bank account before you check social media every morning until you're worth about 20 liquid. And that'll be a good way to understand what's going on in your world.
20 bucks.
20 liquid. Yeah.
But it's easy though.
I'm done.
It's easy though, especially in business and obviously with what we're doing. Like as things come in thick and fast, it's easy to, expenses can come in and you have no idea that this expense is even coming through, and before you know it you're like, wow, I've just wasted this amount of money on that expense that was completely not necessary. And having this sort of discipline to go through and do that each and every day really does keep us focused on that and make sure we're staying lean
on your money, on top of it.
Especially when you're in a tech-related business that's got a tech stack. It's just, this is only $20 a month. That's 30. Grab this, grab that, grab this. Before you know it, it's like, fuck, this is like 10 grand a month. And you're in startup phase. You're like, wow, how did this happen?
It adds up.
You got 1,000 subscriptions at $97 a month. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Well, especially in Chris's business, one of the things that they switched to just recently was no more hourly rate for our employees. It's a pay per build type model, which is really changing the face of things, because in Chris's business, it's a service business. So you're arbitraging labor. That's it.
Yeah.
Same as a massage business. Same as a doctor or a lawyer. You hire a lawyer for 70 grand and bill them out at 120.
Especially with scope creep as well.
That's right.
Stuff like that. It's like,
it's been really good because it's focused on us on a few things with the team, but also with the clients for the scope creep, like you say. And the beauty of it is it's aligning the outcomes. So now the guys, they know they have to deliver a certain standard and within a certain time frame. And look, if they can do that in a couple of hours, brilliant. Their hourly rates are skyrocketed, right? Which a lot of them can do, which is great. And if it's going to take them longer, then they're incentivized to get it done as quickly as possible and with as few mistakes as possible as well. And it's forced us to really look at, how do we then work with our clients to make sure we avoid that scope creep and set the expectations up front. So that one little exercise has had a lot of downstream effects, which is absolutely brilliant. And in fact, actually this morning, when a bookkeeper came through, she was like, happy dance. Our bill from this week to last week is drastically lower. Just this one little thing we've implemented. So it's very
we
exciting.
have the most awesome bookkeeper. I don't know how old Lizzie is, but I'd say she'd be 70.
amazing.
Do you think?
I've no idea, but she's got so much energy.
She's so bright
wonderful.
and healthy. Yeah. And when I introduced her to Chris, I said, Chris, this is Lizzie. You need to listen to Lizzie, because Lizzie has actually owned heaps of businesses, her and her husband herself. They imported cars. She understands cash flow. And I said, these are the types of people you need to have as your friends, because Lizzie's seen the books of hundreds and hundreds of businesses. And she asked her, Lizzie, what concerns you about my books? What concerns you about my cash flow and my P&L? She tells him, and I've got this relationship going now between Lizzie and Chris. So I said, don't let him off the hook, Lizzie. Give him a hard time, smack him around, And she's been brilliant.
It's been amazing.
Yeah, it's transformative, right? Like,
it really is.
And things like the cash cycle and like changing the terms from 50 up front, 50 on delivery to 50 up front, 30% when we deliver the working model, and then 20% when it's finalized. Because what happens is clients get the working model and they're busy. And so they're like, oh yeah, I'll get to it. Meanwhile, we're losing money because we don't make 50% profit, right? So we've done all this work and 90% of the build, all the costs are gone out and we're underwater until they actually pay the back.
That's it.
So now we're saying...
they're not incentivized either.
No, but when we say, hey, your AI is ready to go and it's amazing, you need to pay the 30% payment and we'll give it to you. They're like, okay, great. And now they're paying that 30% payment. And now we're not going backwards with every client that we sign. We're actually head above water. So these simple things. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the pod. I wanted to share a really interesting stat with you. In our e-commerce business where we sell electric toilets, we noticed that nearly half of our online visitors visit our website and do their research outside of normal business hours. Now, when you think about spending thousands of dollars a month on traffic, it is pretty important that you can service your customers when they're on their website. And that's why we used Earlibird AI. That's EARLI rather than Y, Earlibird.ai. The team there helped us implement AI-powered web forms, which when somebody has a question about anything to do with our product, our website actually texts them immediately and engages with them in a discussion to assist them with whatever they want to know and is trained to move them towards purchase. We've also installed a talking website, or it's about to go live, where you can literally push a button on the website and it connects with an AI-powered voice that sounds like a natural Aussie-speaking person, and you can literally just talk to the screen and have the AI engage with them, answer all their questions, and again, direct them towards a sale. If you would like to learn other ways, including those, to grow your business through very smart AI, go and talk to the people at earlybird.ai. You can get a free audit of your business. It's not just for online businesses. We're working with plumbers, medical centers, all kinds of businesses over there. Go to earlybird.ai. I can't recommend them highly enough. With that said, enjoy the rest of the pod.
Some powerful psychology in the simple things though, right? I have another client of mine who's got a subscription for a high ticket item. It's like a $40,000 item, and they had a lot of churn after the first month. And it was just like, dude, you got to charge more on the upfront, just so you have the psychology. If they're gonna churn and burn, they've got more to lose rather than. There's two different things, right? There's like monthly modules that they should get access to, but they should get access to them and they should open up on the monthly rather than carte blanche. You can just binge watch the whole thing, because they might binge watch the whole thing and then they wrongly say, without all the coaching and the mentoring that they get in the program, oh, this is all it is. It's maybe not worth 40 grand. Do you know what I mean? So just release it monthly and have more of an upfront, and that'll mean your monthly is lower, which is great. You can sell that, but there's some more psychology of fear of missing out, right?
Every business is different. You've got to really sit down and think through the psychology of your business, your product, your service. And I said to Chris and the guys, look, to explain this to the customer, if you ever get asked, just say we don't make more than 20% margin, right? Like when we give you a working AI, we're still waiting for our margin while you finalize the work. So we don't get paid until right at the end, but all our expenses are paid as we go. And most business owners get that. James, you're going to say something.
No, just agreeing that, and you have to be in it to really understand it as well. It's like it's easy when you're at a startup looking, I think this is going to happen. That doesn't work that way at all. More often than not, it's like my business partner's Scottish, and he said in the UK, when they back when he's younger, obviously they developed townhouses. They'd never lay the concrete. They'd build all the buildings and let everyone walk and see where they walk, then put the concrete down. And similar to that, so let's see what happens. All right, that's now the system, because you can go and build out all these crazy systems that just don't work because the water doesn't flow that way. Right. So it's quite an interesting analogy, but to be on top of it straight up.
It's great, but also just like the level of detail as well, just thinking everything through. So I know you've talked about it on the pod with like the post-it notes. I've been going mental with those post-it notes, especially with Josh as well in the office. And again, Lizzie, when she walked in, we mapped out our entire growth engine. So what happens from when a lead comes through all the way through to the sale. And it's thorough. And now it's like, okay, we have a video I need to record for like the thank you page and a few bits and pieces there we can see, but it's there. And next we're going to map out our fulfillment engine. And so Lizzie took one look at it and she goes, that's great. It was on her list of things to cover and now we don't have to cover it, which is amazing. But thinking everything through to that level of detail, it just takes everything to the next level, and it's really required. And the other thing too that I know we've talked about a lot is we started off doing a lot of things in AI and we've simplified and simplified and simplified and simplified. And the more we simplify, the better things get, the better our results for obviously the clients, the better the conversations we're having or the AI is having, because we can cut everything right back. And the thing that's been really interesting for me as well is like, as you grow and scale a team, we have obviously multiple areas. We have the sales team, we have the dev team, the support team, the executive team. And then one little change has to be communicated out to everybody, right? So they're all on the same page and they understand. And so, if you are trying to do so many different things at once, trying to get those communication points out and everyone actually understanding those things, it's very difficult. And so, again, as we've been going, we've just been refining, and it's just getting better and better and better and better each and every time, to the point where a friend of the pod, I won't mention names, but a friend of the pod reached out recently. They're high up in a publicly listed company, reached out through Instagram recently saying, hey, we've been exploring other options. They've been trying to get an appointment with us. It's been very, very busy, but look, we've looked at other options and you guys are head and shoulders above the rest. And having that sort of stuff come through and watching the results from our clients come through, the looks on their faces when they see the AI for the very first time. Before coming here, I just had a meeting with one of our clients and showed them the AI for the very first time for them to test. They're over the moon. All that only comes from simplifying and cutting everything else away. And that's it's been very difficult. Like for me personally, it's been a big journey.
Well, that started, we went in there about a month ago and said, all right, what are the products we sell? And it sounds like a really simple question, but okay, these are we settled on 4.
Yeah.
So these are the 4. Okay, so how do we explain those 4 in a 90-second video? And then we booked the time, we shot the 90-second videos, and I was just looking before we came on, and we put all 4 of those onto my Instagram, the 90-second videos, to see which one resonated the most. And the most successful piece of content that I've put on my Instagram, original piece, not where I've gone and grabbed another piece of content and just reskinned it, where it's an actual original piece made by us in-house, was one of those product demos. And it's gone to over 115,000 views.
Wow, that's amazing.
Organic views within 4 weeks. So now we know, that's the product that's resonating. It's been shared like 1,500 times.
So that's the product you want to put some ad spend behind.
Well, yeah,
Correct.
absolutely.
All of it.
Okay.
But the best part is
the ads.
The best part is it's not just the views and the shares, which are great. It's actual appointments that have been coming through. Yeah. I know, me personally, I've taken at least 5 appointments from that one particular reel, that one particular one. Good. Yeah. And we've got multiple other guys on the sales team as well, and I don't know what they've been doing with it, but I know myself 4 or 5 of them from that one particular one. It's been really that powerful, where one of the guys rocked up and says, look, the owner of the business, right, is they're in the middle of doing some events right now, but the owner of the business saw it, said we need to have it. So we're having this conversation.
Speaking of paid, have you actually got paid running yet? With
we needed a website first.
That
always helps.
Yeah, that's right.
Built the website.
Yeah.
And that's going live overnight. That will be. So we'll be running the paid this week, which is very exciting for us too.
So the boys have done $500,000 of business in the first 3 months with no ads and no website.
So good.
Which is
wild.
Like literally a type form for a website.
Yeah.
And no ads, just sponsorship of the pod. But the website goes live
overnight. We have to connect our domain, but it's all there ready to rock and roll. And so
it's interesting.
Yeah.
I wanted to share, just to close this one up, some data for people listening that I felt might be interesting for all of us here. I made it a bit of a focus this quarter of really trying to get better at my Instagram, right, and creating content. So I did some Reels training, and learned from 20-year-olds on how to make more compelling Reels and how to make more compelling TikToks. And so over the last 30 days, I've produced 195 pieces of content. So that's including just stories, here I am walking into a restaurant, here I am doing this, et cetera. And then every day I've been producing a reel, Monday to Friday, sometimes Saturday, Sunday, but doing a reel. And I've been learning things like CapCut, so that the camera moves in and out and it's engaging, and testing hooks, and then I'm getting a cover made in Canva. Some of my Instagram all of a sudden now looks fantastic. If you go to my Instagram feed, at Adam Hudson Official, you can look at it and look at the Reels section. You'll see it all looks all
got
nice.
An awesome checkerboard thing going on.
Got the checkerboard thing going on, all that. Anyway, the improvement from doing one Reels course has been phenomenal, where I was getting 1,000 to 2,500 views per reel. I'm getting 6,000, 7,000 regularly. But here's the numbers. So 195 pieces of content, 190,000 accounts reached, 12,000 accounts engaged, meaning they liked or commented. I've accumulated 1,134 new followers in the last 30 days. In the last 90 days, 2,739 followers. And what was interesting, about 6,440 profile visits in the last 30 days. So those people going, who is this guy? Right. And they see the thing. And one of my jobs now is to get a more compelling, higher converting so that more people follow. But the reason I tell you that is because over the last 90 days, 2,739 new followers. Now, you think about that for a moment. If you saw 2,500 people in front of you, that's a big audience in and of itself. So, you chip away at that, you extend that out over a year, that's 10,000 people, genuine followers, no bullshit buying people, none of that. This is all real, authentic stuff. So if you are running a business out there, and I had 6,500 profile visits, checking out what would that be in your business or what could that convert to in your business. And I spend about an hour a day on Instagram producing the content and all that sort of stuff.
Is it worthwhile going through the workflow of what that looks like at all? Or?
Oh, look, what I do is I have in my phone, I have notes, and I have a note that is real ideas. And I'm really starting to think about and notice what type of content the audience loves and loves to share and stuff. So I'm now getting a much better feel for what will get traction with my audience and what they want more of. Demonstration of things like, it's really interesting. Like I did one a couple of days ago where it was, and they're not highly polished. Like I was sitting in the lobby of the hotel in Singapore. It was about 6 a.m. I said, guys, I'm about to show you this new update from Google LM, where you can upload a PDF document and then it turns it into a podcast between two artificial intelligence podcasters. So like if you've got a really dense document, like let's say you're a lawyer and there's a new legal precedent, rather than having to read it, you just upload the PDF and then it turns into a podcast where you can just listen to two
That's great.
interviewers explain what's in the pod in a conversational way. And so what I did with this reel was I was in the thing, I said, I'm going to show you this, pretty cool, watch this. And then I just grabbed a little 15-second clip of it from online. And that thing has just gone like bonkers. Like I put it up a few days ago. I'm just going to have a quick look here now. So you can see it's at 26,000 reviews, 514 shares.
Wow, that's
Of
amazing.
people pushing that out. And it took me like 60 seconds to film it, just on my phone, just handheld.
Yeah.
And then maybe another 20 minutes to cut it in CapCut and put it up and get on the rest of my day.
Do you know what I love about that? Is that you got a notes app, you got CapCut, and your phone. It's all free. Like, there's no fancy technical.
There's no
things.
lights, there's no microphone, there was no nothing. And so these things, and you start to realize, and I really started to like the young people kept drilling it into me to really understand what your audience cares about.
Yeah.
And I send an email every week to our list of customers from Reliable. We had 17,000 customers. It's now down 10 years later to about 9,000, I think, on the email list. Others have unsubscribed over those years. And I email them once, twice a week. Normally, we get 0 to 2 or 3 replies when we do an email broadcast. And it's usually, hey guys, hope you're having a great week. Here's the content of this week's pod. People just go, Last week, I was really fired up about this free speech stuff, and I wrote this really compelling email. I don't know if you guys got it.
Great email.
But I really sat down and carefully,
Personal, right? Yeah.
it was very personal and it was real. And my inbox, I was showing James before the pod, it's just dozens and dozens and dozens. So you've got to always remember people are watching and are listening, but we're just not doing a good enough job in actually really listening to them. And it was really good because the response I got back, one of my friends I showed it to said, you should take this to MPs and show them this is the data on what people are actually feeling and thinking. So
It's a great idea.
everybody who's got a business, you can very easily get into that rut of just, I've got to do my email marketing. I've got to do my social media. And then you just become part of the noise rather than really deeply studying. And I've tripled my engagement and reach as a result of it in 60 days.
Selfish question. Do you have any sort of like tips for how do you actually listen to your audience? Like, so if you don't have people commenting or much of that at all, is there anything you can do, or is it just a matter of like posting content and watching to see what sticks?
No, well, the big learning for me was the metric that I'm most interested in is not views, although that's an extension of what I'm going to say is the metric. The metric I look for is shares. Did somebody find this so interesting that they flicked it onto 4 of their friends, right? I thought, oh, you've got to see this. Is it that kind of content? And if it's not like I keep saying it, the worst performing content on my Instagram are clips of the pod.
Right.
Unless it's a controversial clip or that's why the clickbait stuff works, because people have seen this format, right? And they go, oh, that's just the pod. Brain turns off. But if I'm in a lobby of a new hotel and I start with a hook that's actually really compelling and useful to help them grow their business or is about something that they really care about, and that's the first thing I'm at. It's a real art form, getting really, really, and then I put the piece of content out and then I watch it throughout the day and see how it's going. And you very quickly, by starting to see that and observing what other people are doing in the business space that's shareable. And I think that's why Hermosi's so good, because he's so good at giving you a little nutshell.
Yeah.
And that's why I said Twitter is his secret weapon, because it forces him to be concise, but he just produces golden eggs.
Yeah. He's a great guy to model. And he spent like 140 grand on mentoring with Grant Cardone, who said, you need to do 4 reels a day. And like a few, I think it was like at least 7 posts on LinkedIn a week. And he said, look, it's before 11. I've already done 5 and you've done 1 yesterday. And from that, I've had outsourced social media management teams and guys internally as well. And they've all given me pushback on the amount of content that I'm producing, because guys, I've got to have 3 a day. I've got to have 4 a day. And they've all been pushing back on that. I'm like, no, I don't care if I can't really measure it or get traction. I want to give it like 12 months, and I don't care if I get nothing.
I do disagree, though, to a certain point, because I started with that idea. It's only 4 a day. But when Grant was coming up is different to today. As when Grant was coming up, it was a new world in social media, and people would just go, oh, look at all this content.
Yep.
Now people are far more discerning about. It's no good having 4 bits of boring content.
Agree.
Like I could produce 4 bits. We were doing 4 clips a day of this pod, and it just wasn't getting the traction.
Yeah.
But when I can show an interesting, if you look at Earlibird's account, they've got to 1,700 followers
Quite a few,
in 3 months. Real organic followers. But they're producing content that's really genuinely interesting to business people.
Yeah.
So I think it has shifted. I love Grant, and I don't assume to know more about social media than Grant, but really you've got to get very surgical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was on board at a client this morning before coming in here, and I said, "Oh, where did you hear about us? Was it the Unemployable podcast? Because we got like 30,000 views on that. It was insane. It was like more than fills the Seabus Stadium, which I loved. My ego got a massive stroke from that." And then he said, no, it wasn't that. It was from our new website. And he said, no, it wasn't from that. My wife saw the reel that you made last night, and she texted it to me and said, we need to talk to this guy. I was like, oh, maybe content does work.
It does work.
I reckon this year I've probably got at least $250,000 attribution to content that I know. There's just 2 clients in particular that I know, yep, that's definitely attributed to those. The others is a little bit hard to measure, and I think it's more of a conversion piece too. Right, so part of the customer journey, they might see you on paid ads, and then they might stalk you and go, "Oh, this guy actually knows what he's talking about."
I know for sure that in the last 12 months, I've made probably 1.5 million off my social media, just off my Instagram, and I don't do Facebook. I don't do anything else, just Instagram.
Yeah.
So just directly from that, and then there's been a whole bunch of other benefits that have come from it as well. Yeah. So there is value in it, and there's some really interesting things like that podcast now.
Right.
That podcasting tool, Stephen Bartlett has got a team of 5. He owns Diary of a CEO, which is one of the top podcasts in the world. I think it's as big or bigger than Rogan now. He's got a team of 5 people that are trying to disrupt his podcast with AI podcasts, and they're optimizing the AI podcasts against the stats that they have from Diary of a CEO. And so he's got, I think it's an F1 podcast where all the content is written by an AI, and then it's narrated by 2 AIs, and it's published and launched, and it's getting massive traction. Where a student who, we'll talk about this, I think Matt, who's one of our clients, he's a software cybersecurity guy, and he's producing AI music and getting an audience, and he put out some meme type content around they're eating the cats when they come over the border. He's got an AI to write a song about it. Then it's going viral. Then he's going to sell merch. And it's putting a different paintbrush in different hands now.
I think I saw he commented from the last pod that he's going to do a song for this one, I think, and for Unemployable. And if he hasn't already, then he should.
So it's really interesting. I think there's going to be accounts now that are going to get eyeballs. And, we had one of our clients, she's got an account called Sober Renewal. You can look it up on Instagram. And she's grown that to over 100,000 organic followers. And it's about quitting alcohol, which is a huge movement. It's a faceless account. But I think she's up to 150,000 or something. Gemma, she's just crushed it.
And faceless, keyword.
Faceless, yeah. And she's got Gerard Butler follows her, and it's a huge movement. And they're launching some products now.
Yeah.
But 150,000 people is a lot of people.
That's a big audience,
It's a big audience, and she can reach out to them multiple times a day as long as she's got something engaging and entertaining. And I think that's where we're heading towards. Is that the reward for high quality, thoughtful.
And also in demand content as well. Like the category she's after, as you said, it's a big movement to no booze and whatnot versus whatever else. That's just a more normal mundane category. Like it's fairly specific.
There are dry bars opening now. I saw them in the media in New York. They've opened fully dry bars. So they're all cocktails, mocktails, but there's no alcohol in the whole bar. But it feels like a bar, looks like a bar.
That sounds so Mormon. Where was it?
New York.
New York.
And you go home lonely. Oh, sorry.
So they have to drink you pretty, do they, James?
Other way around.
Like we always say, we just need to find one woman with poor judgment for James, and we're in good shape.
Don't stop at one.
They come around.
Exactly.
You can call me Diddy. No Diddy.
Guys, well, there it is. There it is for another week. Thank you for tuning in at home. We hope you found this helpful. It's a bit of a meandering one. I apologise. My energy levels are a bit low today because I literally am operating on 2 hours of sleep.
I thought it was great, like especially the short form content at the end. For me personally, was really enlightening, and looking forward to implementing. So.
Yeah, look, I think it's one of those things. It's not for everybody, and it's not for every business. But I just share the stats because it's very rarely that you hear the actual offtake from all that effort. It's not. I don't feel like doing a real everyday gift. Just to be clear, I don't love doing it. I am enjoying the process of learning and getting better, but to actually see results come, it's like going to the gym, not that I know much about that, but when you do see the results, you start to feel so much better about doing the work. You go, man, that investment in that education really is paying off now, and I'm starting to see growth, and I'm starting to enjoy it, and it's good from that perspective. All right, guys. Well, thank you for that. Simon, what are you doing, mate?
I'm just recording a reel right now, mate. So
good on you.
A bit of content, yeah.
Number one tip for all of that is, would you share what you just saw? That's the thing I keep disciplining myself to do. And it comes back to that stuff we talked about last week is we might have a lot of experience out there, the older people, but we don't have the relevant knowledge. So go and seek the relevant knowledge and combine it with your experience, and then you're off to the races. So
I'm really curious to see what the audience thinks about this podcast, to continue the conversation if they've got questions about any aspect of content or advertising or business in general or AI, if they've got anything, because I know you guys are interactive on the comments here and you want to give advice and continue the conversation. I'd be really keen to see some comments in there or questions in there for you.
Drop a comment.
Yeah, absolutely.
So while we're on this, where can they follow you, Simon, with all your
I'm at Simon Cryer, which is SimeonCryer. I'm sure they'll put an at there, and it's automateconvert.com.
Okay. Chris,
so it's at Chris Jeong Official, so Jeong, and at Earlibird AI as well.
That's the business. All right.
I don't want to be found, so that's fine.
Just go to Bumble and you'll find James. Hinge, Bumble.
Burley Pavilion.
Or the Burley Pav.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Thank you for being here, guys. We appreciate you. We'll see you on the next pod. Drop a like, drop a comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. See you on the next one. Bye for now.
Hey there. I hope you enjoyed that episode of Unemployable. If you'd like to watch another episode, just click there.